Hospitals and nursing homes hide terrifying secrets. In this video, you'll hear bone-chilling hospital horror stories that'll make you question reality. Hauntings, voices from beyond, and gruesome encounters, like the story you're about to hear, where a night shift nurse discovers her nursing home is being watched by something sinister. A man in black with a twisted grin only appears to those on the brink of death. Did she escape in time? But before we begin, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a terrifying tale. I worked the night shift as a nurse at St. Vincent's nursing home. An old place, the kind that breathes history, and sometimes worse things. The walls were worn with time. The floors creaked like they were complaining with every step. And the silence. God, the silence was so thick you could hear the hum of the flickering overhead lights. That night, it all started with Lena Ramirez, a frail old woman, her skin wrinkled like crumpled paper, but with eyes that seemed to see things the rest of us couldn't. She called me over in a shaky voice, gripping my wrist with a strength that didn't match her fragile body. "Nurse." He came back. I sat on the edge of her bed, trying to stay calm. I'd seen confused patients before. Hallucinations weren't uncommon for people teetering on the edge of death. But there was something in her voice that made my skin crawl. "Who came back, Miss Lena?" "The man in black." She stared at the corner of the room like he was standing there right then. "He smiles at me, and the voices, they won't stop talking." I tried to soothe her, but as the night dragged on, she only got more frantic. She screamed for help, saying he was getting closer. Eventually, I had to step out to the supply closet to grab more meds, and that's when everything changed. Halfway down that dimly lit hallway, I felt it. Before I saw anything, I felt it. A coldness on the back of my neck, that prickling dread crawling up your spine and lodging in your throat. And then, a hand. Cold, heavy, resting on my shoulder. I spun around expecting to see someone, a coworker, a patient, anything. But there was no one, just dusty shelves and the flickering light, like it was mocking me. I took a deep breath, chalked it up to exhaustion. Then I decided to peek down the hallway through the supply room's little window, and there he was. At the far end of the hall, standing perfectly still. A tall man dressed all in black with a smile. Not a normal smile, no. It was too wide, crooked, like someone had hooked the corners of his mouth and pulled. Our eyes met, and then he smiled even wider. I didn't think. I screamed like my life depended on it. The whole hallway erupted in noise. The other nurses came running, flashlights in hand, searching every corner. But there was nothing. No one. Just the echo of my own fear bouncing off the walls. Back in her bed, Lena was in a full panic. Eyes glazed, hands clawing at the sheets, whispering things that made no sense. "He came for me. He came for me." That same week, I put in for a transfer. I couldn't take it anymore. Some things you don't explain, you just run. Even now, when I close my eyes, I see that smile. And I wonder, is he still there, in the dark, waiting for the next unsuspecting nurse? Or worse, has he already found another victim? Chilling. What did you think of the story? Rate it 0 to 10 in the comments. The man in black at the nursing home didn't leave. He's just waiting for his next victim. And like in the next story, some encounters aren't accidents. They're invitations to a nightmare. It was autumn, one of those seasons where the wind cuts right through you and the shadows seem to crawl along the ground. That's when I met Francesca on Tinder. Italian, with deep-set eyes that looked like they were hiding secrets, and a smile that had me hooked from the first hey. We talked, swapped stories, and out of nowhere she drops, "Want to check out an abandoned hospital?" It sounded stupid, but something in her voice made me say yes. It wasn't just the thrill. It was that icy shiver down your spine when you know you're about to do something dumb. We drove there, parked on a dead-end street with no one around. The hospital loomed like a concrete monster, its broken windows staring at us like hollow eyes. Francesca didn't hesitate. She grabbed a rock, smashed a basement window, and slipped inside like she'd done it 1,000 times before. "Come on," she called, and I followed. Inside, the air was thick, reeking of mold and something else, something I couldn't name. Our phone flashlights barely cut through the dark, but Francesca moved ahead like she knew every hallway. "You been here before?" I asked, trying to hide the nerves. She just smiled. Then the noises started, scratches on the walls, whispers with no source. I kept looking back, swearing I saw shadows shifting. Her hand gripped mine, cold as ice. "Let's go upstairs," she said, and I followed even though every instinct screamed run. It was in the last hallway that we saw him, a man in all black stepping out from a half-open door, empty eyes, a crooked smile. "You shouldn't be here." His voice was low, but it echoed in my skull like a gunshot. "But since you are, why don't you come downstairs with me?" Francesca tried to play tough. "You a cop? Security?" No answer, just a step forward. That was enough. We bolted like hell itself was chasing us, and maybe it was. His footsteps pounded behind us, getting closer, until we finally found the broken window. I jumped out, yanked Francesca after me, and we didn't stop running until we hit the car. Inside, gasping, we just looked at each other. No words needed, that place was wrong, something there didn't belong. In the days after, we got closer. Shared the fear, the sleepless nights. But one thing we agreed on: never go back to that hospital. Some doors shouldn't be opened. Some secrets are better left alone. And even now, when the wind blows just right, I still hear that whisper. "You shouldn't be here." Creepy. The abandoned hospital held secrets that should have stayed buried. But some ghosts don't need an empty building to appear. As you'll see next, sometimes they're right in front of you, even when you're a patient. I've never liked hospitals. Ever since I was little, my heart problems kept me in them more than at home. When I was 15, a sharp pain sent me back for emergency surgery. After the operation, everything seemed fine, until that night. It was 4 a.m. when I suddenly woke up, a chill running down my spine. Something was wrong. I felt a prick in my arm and looked down. A thin needle sliding into my skin. But wait, the blood tests were already over. Why would anyone do this now? My heart raced. I turned toward the window where rain hammered against the glass, streaking down like tears. And then I saw her, a woman, standing outside, motionless. At first I thought she was a nurse, but she wasn't moving, wasn't breathing, just standing there, staring. Then slowly she turned her head, and when the moonlight hit her face, I saw her eyes, empty, dark. Her mouth opened, but the scream that came out didn't come from her lips. It came from inside my head. I tried to scream, but only a whimper escaped. My chest tightened, my blood ran cold, and before I could make sense of it, everything went black. When I woke up, nurses were gathered around me, whispering. I was shaking, trying to explain what I'd seen, but the words wouldn't come. One of them glanced at the other and murmured, "There was a death in the next ward." A doctor came in, confirmed someone had died, but wouldn't give details. "You're too young for this kind of thing," he said. I used to love horror stories, but that day, I just wanted to forget. 4 days later, I was discharged. My mom showed up with balloons, flowers. It was such a relief. Years passed. My health improved, and I never thought about that night again. Until the day I went back to the hospital for a routine checkup. I walked down the same hallway, glanced at the window, and realized the painting that used to hang there, the portrait of that woman, was gone. In that moment, a weight lifted off my shoulders. Finally, I was free. I left the hospital that day, breathing deep, ready to put the past behind me. But sometimes in the quiet of the night, I still wonder, who was that woman? And what if she wasn't just at the window? Spine-tingling, right? The woman in the window vanished, but her terror lingered. And what if I told you there are places in hospitals where the dead don't rest? The next story takes place in the darkest corner of a hospital, where even children play in silence. Before we continue, if you're still here, you must love these stories. Smash that like button to tell YouTube you want more horror, and never miss another nightmare-fueled tale. I grew up in one of those quiet neighborhoods where everyone knows each other, where houses smell like fresh-baked cake in the late afternoon, and the streets are safe enough for kids to play until sunset. But there was one place that never fit into those happy memories. A huge, imposing building that stood not too far from my house. Back in the 1930s, it had been a college. Then, in the 80s, it became a hospital. And ever since I was little, I'd heard the stories. Whispers about shadows moving in the windows at night, voices murmuring in empty hallways. But my mom, Elena Ramirez, wasn't afraid of anything. A nurse at heart, she started working there right after graduation. It didn't take long, though, before she'd come home with something in her eyes I didn't understand back then. Fear. She told me it was on the 3rd floor, where the air felt heavier and the lights always flickered, that she first saw the girl. Dark hair, a dirty white dress, big sad eyes. A ghostly child standing at the end of the hallway like she was lost. My mom, brave as ever, tried to talk to her. "Sweetheart, are you lost?" she asked in that gentle voice she used with patience. But the girl just vanished, like she'd never been there at all. Except that wasn't the last time. The girl came back, again and again, always appearing in the quietest corners, at the most unexpected moments, only to disappear like smoke. The hospital, once a place of learning, now seemed to hold something much darker, something my mom felt, but no one else wanted to believe. Her co-workers laughed it off, said she was overworked, exhausted. But I could see it in her face. It wasn't exhaustion, it was fear. And then, on a cold, rainy night, everything got worse. My mom was alone in the morgue, a place even the toughest staff avoided. The light was dim, shadows stretched across the walls and the air. The air was freezing even with the coolers turned off. That's when she appeared again. The girl. Standing beside a gurney covered by a white sheet. This time she didn't disappear right away. She just stood there staring at my mom with those dark, hollow eyes, like she was trying to say something but couldn't. My mom froze. Before she could react, the girl dissolved into the air, leaving nothing but a chill down her spine and a silence that rang in her ears. The next day, when she told them what happened, no one believed her. "It's all in your head," they said. "Night shifts mess with you." But I knew it was more than that. I started digging, and I found out that hospital had much older stories, reports from paranormal investigators, patients who swore they'd seen things, staff who'd requested transfers without explanation. That girl, she was trapped there, and I needed to find out why. My mom had faced enough. Now it was my turn, and this is only the beginning of the story. Absolutely horrifying. The girl in the morgue was just another lost soul. But in psychiatric hospitals, the living can be haunted too. Like in the next story where a girl hears voices no one else can, and they never stop calling. I'll never forget that place. The smell of disinfectant clinging to the air, the fluorescent lights flickering like sick fireflies, and the silence. A heavy silence. The kind that fills your ears until you start hearing things that shouldn't exist. My name is Isabella. I was 13 when it all happened. I'd already been in that ER for a few days after my therapist decided I couldn't go home. The hospital's white walls felt like they were crushing me, and the distant sounds, a metal cart screeching, someone crying 2 doors down, left my nerves frayed. Then they transferred me somewhere else, a psychiatric hospital. There they put me in a shared room with a girl named Maria. She seemed calm, almost harmless, lying on the other bed with her dark hair fanned out over the pillow. She breathed slowly, like she was just in a deep sleep. But one night, everything changed. I was almost asleep when I heard her bed creak. Then came the voice, a thin, trembling voice like she was holding back something much worse inside her. "Isabella, please call the nurse. I don't want to hurt you." My blood ran cold. In the dark, I saw her eyes, wide, filled with a panic that wasn't just fear. It was a warning, like she knew something I didn't. I pressed the call button with shaking fingers. The seconds until the nurse arrived felt like hours. When Miss Carmen appeared in the doorway, something in her expression scared me even more. She didn't look surprised. She looked like she'd been expecting this. "Isabella, we're moving you to another room," she said softly but firmly. I got up, but before leaving, I glanced back at Maria one last time. She was sitting up in bed now, her eyes locked on me, and without saying a word, I knew exactly what she was thinking. "I could hurt you." The hallway was empty, lit only by those dim lights that make shadows dance at the edge of your vision. I swear I saw things moving along the walls, things that hid when I turned to look. In the new room, locked in alone, I couldn't stop replaying her words. "I don't want to hurt you." But what if there came a moment when she did? The next few days were a nightmare. Nurses in and out, psychologists asking questions, but no one telling me what really happened to Maria. They just gave me tight-lipped smiles and said I was safe. But safe from what? Eventually I got better. I left that place, went home, tried to move on. But even now, when I close my eyes, I still hear her voice in the dark. "Call the nurse." And I can't help but wonder, did she ever get to call the nurse in time? Or did someone else hear those words on a silent night and not react as fast as I did? So disturbing. In hospitals, it's not always adults who roam the halls, as you'll see next when children's laughter echoes at midnight, and no one knows where it's coming from. I was born with a weak heart. Ever since I was little, I knew the smell of a hospital by heart, that mix of antiseptic and cafeteria food. The doctors and nurses were practically like aunts and uncles to me, you know? By the time I was 16, things got worse. I spent so much time hospitalized that the place became my second home. There was one nurse who was an absolute angel to me, Maria Torres. Calm smile, soothing voice, that motherly way of making you feel safe, even when the pain got bad. But one night changed everything. I woke up in the middle of the night to a strange sound. The hospital was always quiet after dark, but this time, from the far end of the hallway, came a noise that shouldn't have existed. Children laughing, playing, giggling like a bunch of kids were in the playroom. "Mom, do you hear that?" I whispered. My mom, Sophia, lifted her head and listened. I watched her face change. She tried to hide it, but I could see the fear. "Must be some kids who couldn't sleep," she said. But her voice didn't even convince herself. The next day, I mentioned it to Nurse Maria, and that's the first time I ever saw that confident woman hesitate. She looked away, like she didn't want to face my question. "Anna," she started slowly, "there are no kids playing here at night. The hospital has strict rules, total quiet after 10. My mom and I exchanged a glance. The air turned cold. Then, what did I hear? My voice was barely a whisper. Maria took a deep breath before answering. "Some people say it's the children who've already passed on, that sometimes they still play around here." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean, passed on?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Patients, Anna. Kids who never made it home. Some say they never found peace, and they're stuck here." That stuck with me. From then on, every empty hallway, every distant sound took on a new meaning. The hospital was never just a place of healing again. There was something else there, something I couldn't explain. And those laughs, I never heard them again. But to this day, whenever I walk past a hospital at night, my hair stands on end. Because I know there are some things medicine can't cure, and some secrets that never go away. Do you believe in ghosts? After that night, I sure do. Terrifying. The ghost children never returned. But in some hospitals, the dead still do their duty. Like in the next story, where a nurse from the past never ended her shift. And to this day, she still tends to those in need. I'll never forget that year, 2005. I was stuck in St. Michael's Hospital fighting off some nasty infection that nearly killed me. High fever, weak body, every day was a battle. But what I never expected was that in the middle of that fight, I'd end up finding something, or someone that didn't belong in this world. It happened on one of those bad nights, you know. The fever was raging, the hospital hallway almost empty. just the distant sound of nurses changing shifts. I closed my eyes for a second, trying to rest, and when I opened them, she was there. At the foot of my bed stood a nurse, but not like the others. Her uniform was old-fashioned, the kind you only see in vintage photos. White cap, faded blue dress, everything out of time. And the worst part? She was watching me with this calm smile, like she already knew me. My heart raced. I thought, it's the fever, I'm hallucinating. But when I blinked again, she was still there. And then, she gestured. A small quiet wave like she was saying, "It's okay, I'm here." The next day, still shaken, I asked the nurses on duty if anyone there wore that old uniform. Nobody knew what I was talking about, until one of the older ones, a woman who looked like she'd seen it all, pulled me aside. "You saw her, didn't you?" she whispered. I froze. "Ana Herrera," the nurse went on, "worked here in the 60s. She was the best of us, kind, dedicated. But she died young, in an accident right here in the hospital. And ever since..." She glanced down the empty hallway. "They say she never really left." That sent a chill down my spine. I'd seen a ghost. And not just any ghost. A dead nurse who still looked after the patients. In the days that followed, as my health improved, I could feel her nearby. Sometimes out of the corner of my eye, I'd catch that faded blue dress. Other times it was just a presence, like someone had just walked through the room, but I knew it was her. Ana, on the day I was discharged, as I waited in the lobby for my family, I looked back at those white walls that had been both my hell and my refuge. And there, in one of the top floor windows, I saw her again, standing still, watching me. This time she didn't smile. She just waved slow and steady like she was saying, "You're safe now." I never went back to that hospital, but sometimes when the night is quiet and the wind sounds like whispering, I wonder if Anna's still there, tending to the sick, doing what she always loved, even after death. And you know what? If you ever walk down an empty hospital hallway and feel a cold hand comforting you, don't be afraid. It might just be Anna working her eternal shift. Scary, huh? She might have been a gentle spirit, but not all abandoned places are peaceful. Like in this next story, where an old house hides wartime secrets and something inside refuses to be forgotten. It was a quiet autumn night, the kind that tricks you. You think everything's fine, that nothing weird could possibly happen, until it does. I'm Ana Garcia, and I was in that old house from 1908, full of stories its walls seemed desperate to tell. My stepdad, Daniel, and some workers were still there, trying to get everything ready before we officially moved in. The place had been a military hospital once, then an office, and then it sat empty for years. You can only imagine what those walls had seen, right? My mom, Maria, and my little brother, Peter, were at the hospital after a car accident. So it was just me, my sister Sophia, and my half-brother Matthew in the house that night, with Daniel overseeing things. The workers were still at it, hammers pounding, saws buzzing. But then I started hearing other sounds. Doors creaking, swinging open and shut on their own. At first I figured it was the guys fixing something, but then I realized the noises were coming from rooms nobody was even working in. That set off alarm bells. I texted Daniel, "Are you messing with something in the house?" His reply froze my blood. "No, Anna. I'm at the hospital with your mom and Peter." My heart raced. If Daniel wasn't here and the workers had already left, who the hell was opening those doors? Sophia and Matthew were already asleep. I was the only one awake. And then came the worst part. Tap, tap, tap. Light knocks on my bedroom door. I nearly jumped out of my chair. Took a deep breath, swallowed the fear, and went to open it. Nothing. Just the dark hallway, dead silent, like it was staring back at me. I slammed the door shut, but the feeling that something or someone was there, watching me, wouldn't go away. The house almost felt like it was breathing, like it had a life of its own. The next morning, Daniel came back and searched the whole place. Nothing out of place, everything normal. I told him what happened and he tried to brush it off. It's just an old house settling, Anna. Wood expanding, wind rattling the windows. But I knew it was more than that. When I looked at those stained, time-worn windows, I remembered the house's past. A wartime hospital, wounded soldiers, people who died there, had something or someone never really left. That night was just the beginning. The house was keeping secrets, and I was going to uncover every last one of them. No matter what it cost. Nightmare fuel, tell me what you thought. Rate the story 0 to 10 in the comments. I used to live in a quiet neighborhood. The kind where you know your neighbors by name and the worst noise you hear is Old Man Joe's dog barking. Life was normal, you know? Until something strange started happening to me. At first it was just this annoying headache, the kind that wouldn't go away no matter how many pills I took. I figured it was just exhaustion, work stress, the usual grind. But then the pain got worse, and my mind started slipping. It was like my thoughts were being pulled apart, distorted, like a radio tune just off the station. And then, one gray morning, I heard something. I was home alone when voices came out of nowhere. Faint, distant, like kids playing somewhere in the house. Problem. Carlos and I don't have kids. My heart raced, but I tried to convince myself. It's the fever, Elena. You're sick. Your mind's playing tricks on you. But it didn't stop there. One afternoon, while chopping vegetables for dinner, I heard it clear as day. Mommy. My blood ran cold. A child's voice, crisp, coming from the empty hallway. I spun around. Nothing. Just heavy silence pressing down on me. My hands shook as I grabbed the phone and called Carlos. He heard the panic in my voice and rushed home. When he got there, I was white as a sheet, barely able to speak. Without a second thought, he took me straight to the hospital. The doctors didn't waste time. Bacterial meningitis, severe. They stuck me in that hospital bed, hooked up to tubes and machines. Antibiotics pumped into my veins, but my mind went dark. In that dim room, between the beeping of machines, I fell into a waking nightmare. I dreamed of Javier, my ex-husband, the man I'd buried in my past, standing right in front of me, smiling that cruel smile, whispering horrible things about Carlos. He felt too real, his eyes full of hate like he'd never really left. When I woke up drenched in cold sweat, I didn't know what was real anymore. The doctors said the meds could cause hallucinations, but that feeling, that presence, clung to me. After days in the hospital, they released me. I went home with Carlos, pretending everything was fine. But the voices, oh, they still came sometimes. Whispers in the hall, giggles in empty rooms. And I can't help but wonder, was it just the illness? Or is there something here with me that the doctors can't explain? Because some shadows, my friend, don't disappear just because you want them to. If you made it this far, horror's got you hooked. And I love it. If these creepy hospital tales gave you chills, hit subscribe so you never miss the next batch. Drop a comment with, "I'm in till the end" to prove you survived every story. And if you're craving more, smash that like button to keep the nightmares coming. There's a video right here diving even deeper into real-life terror. Click and join me there.